Alright, welcome everyone to the next game in the Shusaku Study Project. This game is from 1839. It is a game when Shusaku was still 11 years old, and it's a 3-stone handicap game against someone who was a 6-dan professional at the time, when 11-year-old Shusaku was 1-dan. It's going to be a very interesting game. There's going to be quite a fight going. I hope you will enjoy it. You can probably refer to this game in the future in a lot of ways when you're thinking about complicated fights that stem from crosscuts. Before I start, I am compelled to thank the members of the Shusaku Study Project who contributed to the analysis for this game. Frozensoul provided the katago enhancements, so he took the game through katago, and then when he found mistakes that were 3 points or more, he analyzed the board position, figured out why katago thought it was a mistake, and then provided his high-level analysis of whether it should be considered a mistake from a human perspective or not. Very often, especially in these early games, and this is probably going to remain a pattern as we go through Shusaku, when Shusaku makes a mistake from the perspective of the AI, like when he plays a move that loses points at the end of the game, or leads to a result that is fewer points at the end of the game, it's because the variations that are more aggressive or more active would lead to a more complicated game. And so he is reading out that he can afford to get fewer points because he wants a simpler game. And this is one of the important elements, is he's not doing it just because of good shape, he's not doing it just because it's nicer that way, he's doing it because he knows that the simpler game will work for him. Possibly like Master. Bugcat very kindly gave us some information, which granted comes from Sensei's library, but it's still good information to have. I'm gonna move these bowls slightly out of the way so I can have the captures here. Sometimes you got lots of captures. And so Bugcat told us, oh, hang on a second. I should probably make the chat more readable. Sorry about this. Then God King Cthulhu's name is slightly on the board. I think everybody's going to be okay with that. If you're not, I'll figure out something about it. But Bugcat was saying that this was the year that Shusaku went back from Edo to his hometown in Enoshima. And the quote from Sensei's library is that on November 28, 1839, so this is a couple of months after this game. Wait, what? 1840, I'm sorry. A couple of months before this game. 6 months before this game. Shusaku got a professional 1-dan diploma by Jowa, Oningo Jowa. And the following year, during a 1-year visit back home, he was awarded a yearly stipend by Lord Asano. And then back in 1841, Shusaku got the name Shusaku. Sorry, back later on in 1841, the year after, he was given the name Shusaku and promoted to 2-dan. Shusaku is an interesting person, this interesting pro to look at, in the sense that he actually got 5 given names. So if you find his games on like the Go-Go-D, for instance, or Go-For-Go or whatever, you will find there are 5 names you have to look up to find all of his games. Anyway, let's dive into the game. It's been enough talking. Also, did I actually thank all the members of the Shusaku Study Project? I think I thanked Frozensoul and that's it. Frozensoul did the katago analysis. And then we had the following members contributed. We got bugcat, ggCowabunga, Itarios, Firescourge, DE. I have Itarios twice in positional judgment. That is how much he contributed. And yeah, that's everybody for this game. If you want your name to be spoken out loud in these videos or to be in the SGFs, you should join the Discord. Find the information in the YouTube video. What is Go-Go-D? Go-Go-D for, I'll just is like for a very long time was I think the only. Oh wait, this is not the video I thought it was. This is not the thing I thought it was, I think. Games of Go on disc, that's what it is. Yeah. So it's the oldest ongoing collection of games that we have. The link is here. It's a very ongoing thing. I bought it. Battle Porridge is here. What's up, Battle Porridge? Like I bought it twice. I bought it in 2007, and then I bought it 2 years ago because I didn't need to keep buying it. Yeah, it's over 100,000 games. It's very cool. It's very, very solid. And there's a lot of research and information. Paywalled, key for library, and info base. Yeah, there you go. That's another way of saying it. So, all right. So here, white is playing fast, which is not surprising. This is the pattern that we saw a lot from Dosaku as well. Dosaku would begin his handicap games by approaching, and then retreating to the komoku, keep making the side open. And here, in modern games, we might see a kick, even though because this is a large knight's move, there's some weaknesses to maintain. But this is an older game, and it's an older game, and Shusaku again likes simpler games. So he's going to just close out this direction for white, and just close off some territory. So he's going to say, okay, it's really going to be on you to make points this game. Now white continues to play fast because he has to start to continue challenging black. So he approaches in the top. He's trying to create an unbalance on the board because he wants to have multiple possibilities, multiple changes that are possible. He wants to create complications on the board. It's a three-stone handicap game, so it's going to be a challenging game to play. So here, black responds. This is kind of a rote answer, right? We see this all the time in the handicap games from 1650 all the way to here, and probably a little bit after Shusaku, this was still standard. Until I think maybe, actually Bugcat, who knows the history of the moves of Go, might actually know when the small knight's move in response became more standard. But I do not know the answer to this question. So this is a standard kind of rote response. Black makes the top side a little smaller to develop, right? It's hard to, there's not much value in here to make points. So these are going to be the main areas for white, and of course the center. White is very light, but the difficulty is white has to make exchanges, right? White pulls back here. This is too far from f3 to be a base, but it coordinates pretty well with r4 to make it more difficult for black to step in here effectively. So, unsurprisingly, the Keima response was a Shinfuseki invention, so 1930s. Okay, so Gosei again, right? Makes sense. Thank you, Bugcat. So, black steps in instantly because the best time to invade is before it becomes territory. And if white gets to play one more move, it's gonna be pretty solid. Now, there's a lot of possible responses here that aren't necessarily all incorrect, but black is going to ask white to choose a direction. Right, so white could play here, white could play here, white could play here, white could play here, pretty much. And if you're here, one of the problems is this move is very, very open. Right, like the value of this move in an even game is it's very flexible, so you get a lot of directions. But here, you lose a tempo with this move. Like black gets a chance to play a second move basically for free. Black could play here, which challenges the 3-space extension here, because then you could just attach on the inside easily. So that's easy enough. Black could play here and kind of continue through in a fairly standard position, and then it would weaken these stones. So this is not a fantastic option. Now, white could do this, but again, you run into the problem where if you do something somewhat standard, like this, you're still damaging these stones. So that's not really an option either for white. And if you play like this, which, you know, strengthens a little bit the bottom side, it brings black up on the right side. And so the trade is tricky because as soon as black presses, or even if black just jumps, right, because you don't want to deal with the cut possibly. If black just jumps, then white is going to be kept pretty low here, and the strength that black gets will become a problem for these stones to go to the center, right? Because like these stones are on the third line against 2 stones here and then 2 stones here. So they're going to be automatically behind the sector line. So white plays very simply here. He has to choose between developing the right side and hurting the bottom 2 stones, or preserving the 2 stones and potentially damaging the right side, which is kind of the, you know, this is the summary of what we just discussed. Since the 2 stones are an investment here, they're also hard to sacrifice. So you have to make them light before you can sacrifice them. And to make them light, you have to have other options on the board, and black and white doesn't have that. So this is Joseki. Now here, it would be better for white to do this sequence that is more standard and we're more familiar with. But it's hard, but this choice here makes it hard for black to make a base, because if you go here, right, part of the sequence gives black this move, and then either a move here or a move here, and then black can live. And white wants to keep the game more complicated, right? White wants to keep black destabilized as much as possible to create complications. So the trade-off here is that black, of course, can move towards the center. Like in the simplest terms, black could play here to just move. Although, of course, black is going to be a little more aggressive to get a bit more of a tempo and play here. So if, and another aspect of this direction, which I forgot to mention, that if you do this and you get something like this, these stones are weakened, because now this is a much stronger group, and then not really a base. So white would have to add a move completely in Gote. So this option hurts, right? Most things hurt at the beginning of a handicap game for white, but this would be pretty painful. So all of this, I think, it leads white to play the move, which, according to Katago, is a bit of a mistake, but sorry, I forgot this stone should be here. So black Itarios gets a tempo from this. White necessarily responds, and black connects towards the center. So this is the first real choice that black really makes to opt for a center position over the side. So he could kind of sacrifice some of the stones, or he could play here instead, and then say we're going to fight for these stones. But he's not. He's going to say, I want to develop strength over this area of the board, and maybe on the right side if I get an option, and then eventually maybe I'll fight these stones, but that's not what I want to do right now. Now, in handicap games, especially with 3+ stones, control of the center for white is usually very important, because you have these things these stones that already give black a lot, and you want to take that away. It's also the only way to get a chance to have fights that go your way. So by taking this direction away, right, by making it hard to go into the center, you can see that black is opting to make things harder on white. Not just by staying ahead in terms of points, but also by contesting center control. So white is going to remove the base from the stones. We're going to contest ever so slightly. And white will finish the pattern. So this gives us a solid corner. And now we have stones here that are floating, frankly. So black now, from the direction perspective, doesn't have a ton of options. He could just strengthen in some way around here, and give these stones something to think about. But what this would do directly is give white an option to make these stones stronger and go towards this, which would considerably weaken these stones. So black instead contests the right side. Right? Now he's going to seal, this also seals in this group, which means that all the strength that white got from the corner exchange is not going to be useful for the rest of the fight. You know, white has a push and cut, but it's not going to be doing a ton. And you know, white can cut here too, but that's a choice. That's the choice that white makes, and of course right now that black makes, and of course the ladders are going to be good for black right now. This is not a terrible exchange for white because the corner is pretty sizable, but it is it's a cost, and if black gets to play here, suddenly the right side is very contested, and this stone has to scramble. So white doesn't really have a ton of choice, and white is going to ask if he can connect underneath, damage a bunch of the stuff. So now white is contesting black's group. Black is going to just jump in and lean, and the reason he's leaning here is because what he really wants to do is develop the center. Right? This is a forcing move because of, well, it's an asking move really. Attachments are asking moves. But in this particular case, the follow-up would be pretty painful because it would be a nice base for this group and it would weaken this stone. So white can't really do that. Now here, if you look at the SGF that we have for the game, you'll see that the Hane is not a very good option. It leads to a position where black is stronger, and white doesn't get a much better result than what happens in the game. So in the game, because black is already pretty strong, white just wants to create a position on the right. So by all means, take a look at the SGF to see the variations. They're pretty interesting. But here I don't want to get lost in those because there's a lot of fighting that takes place in this game. When, of course, the stage is set. So, Hane at the head of 2. Okay. Extend. 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 Now, allowing the Hane at Q12, where white just played, or another attack somewhere in here, would leave white with not very good shape and short liberties. So Q12 is absolutely necessary. The stone is absolutely necessary to make good shape for white. And the stability here is obtained in exchange of black's presence in the center. So this is important because this is sort of the opposite of what white probably really wanted originally when he played quickly, because he wanted to get he seemed to want to get a game where he could get complications, but this got removed pretty quickly. So now he's going to have to figure out how to get complications from the rest of this board, and this is a lot of center power for black. Now if you look at the points, this is going to be about 18 points. This is going to be about 14 points. This is about 11 points. So if you have 14 plus 11 it's 25, and this is 14. So like by pure, this is 18. Sorry. So by pure points, white is up 7. Good afternoon, back. How are you? This being said, we're not counting the strength of this wall, which you want to count as like 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. So like in strength technically black is up 7-ish points, and I'm not counting the rest of the advantages that black has here in fighting and thickness. But the game is close. The one thing to note is, of course, that this thickness is going to make life difficult for these two stones. So white here is going to have forcing moves. There's going to be the attachment, or maybe the preventing the knight's move, the tiger's mouth, and then of course the forcing move here to threaten the cut. And these forcing moves can be useful to build something in the center, but you can't, if you use them too early, all you really do is give black much more strength for nothing, right? So hello, Chains Joy. Now at this point in the game, it is white's turn to play, and this is all pretty settled, right? So white has to play in this area, because that's the last place to start doing something meaningful on the board. Like, you have to start reducing white's framework. So here we end up do another corner play, and white approaches here. Now the stones on the fourth line are for influence, not territory. So this ends up being reasonable. English. Reasonable in the sense that this gives an opportunity for more points, because when your black is going to be ahead to begin with, right? Black, it notes, and this is something that comes back, when we teach the DDKs, when you learn to play Go and you learn about this approach, you're told to respond to it, right? But as you get higher in rank, as you look at the katago games, etc., you learn that this move is actually not necessarily sente. And black here takes an in-between move to create a better shape or thickness. Because he does get to bully this group a tiny bit to get stronger with these stones and make them more than just a random position. And that's going to be useful because that's going to allow him to modify his response over here. So white needs to respond. White gets to reactivate the corner invasion here. But black gets to turn back around here. Now this is, we can look at this as an early sign of Shusaku's preference for balance. Here it's, it's a 3-stone pincer, so it doesn't count as a massive pincer. It's a little bit of a pincer, right? It's a very, very light pressure on this stone. But this also gives more territory, especially given the white invasion at 3-3. And it adds a bit of a struggle around center control still, because it's now hard for white to play moves that will just give him center control easily. It doesn't secure the top right, but it does force a direction for white. And so white tries to sort of resist ever so lightly and says, well, maybe I can still make you choose a direction. Maybe I can still benefit from your choices. But one of the downsides now is black gets to actually choose the direction. And black's directional choice works to preserve the center influence. Now, to be fair, he could play here or on the other attachment, and you get a similar result, but the other attachment would leave this stone completely alone, and then it would have an opportunity to extend, make a base, just, be nice. And black isn't trying to be nice. So this is a Joseki. Alright, so this is the Joseki. Normally there's a slight advantage here because this stone is right where it needs to be to cut, right? To help the cut. But white, of course, is in a position still of weakness where those 3 stones need some help and this stone needs help. If white finishes the Joseki, right, plays over here, then black can do anything from here to here, very simply, to just pushing up here, attaching here, going over here, just anything that would make life more annoying for this one stone and give black the potential for a lot of control. So, alright. The SGF has a slight mistake here. It says white needs to help the 3 marked areas. And... oh, never mind. I know what this is saying. I'm sorry. So the 3 marked areas. White needs to help this. White needs to help this. And white needs to help this. So white needs to figure out how to play on this board in order to help these stones. And white is going to help the weakest area first, and he's going to do it by attaching. Now the top left, as we were talking about earlier a little bit, is unsettled for both, right? White is leaning on the relative strength that black built here, and he's trying to build strength over here that so he can come back and maybe cut here to make these two groups one group, which would of course help both groups at once. Now this is the beginning of all the big questions, because we have an attachment, right? Now normally black would probably just honey up here, because again we have all the center control we want to maintain. But if you just go up this way, you end up in a position like this, where you get this exchange. White can come back around here, which is also forcing. And then here this is slightly problematic because the cut is going to be slightly more active. You're going to have a ko here. So, and this group of course is settled. So honeying up is giving white what white is asking for, right? Like it's basically saying, okay, here's one group you don't have to worry about anymore. So the honey up is too easy. Does that make sense? So and note, of course, the cut here, as I was just saying, is a big problem. So we have to, every variation that black takes into account, every choice that black makes has to take into account this cut. So what black does is the other choice. He goes down here. And here you don't have a lot of good options, because if white just honeys inside, then you end up in a position where black builds comparatively more strength, and this group still has to either settle in gote or try to get out, and then you end up with a group that you still end up with two weak groups. So white white doesn't want to go in that direction. So white is going to challenge black's ability to handle this fight. Now here, you could just extend, right? Extend after a crosscut is a proverb, but there are nearby stones, right? You have this stone and this stone. And so just extending, it wouldn't be the best option for black. Especially it would give white too much thickness. So, white extends, kind of required, and black connects. And with this connection, we are continuing to challenge this stone. Never mind, of course, we have the Atari here, so white is in a weak position. If you've ever considered crosscuts on the second line, or even in general, this is where you should start to really look at the moves. Now, we are 44 moves into the game, right? And black has really maintained his advantage so far. So white is going to continue to challenge the positions. He's going to try to say, hey, look, I need to know if I can do something with this stone, or this stone, or if I can do something to make more complications. What happens if I get out, right? Can I turn this way and get a ladder? Like, where does the ladder go? The ladder seems like it's going to be good for black, which is very unfortunate, right? But through the next fight, right, if you get to honey, you might be able to change the ladder ever so slightly, and that would be just enough. So white is again aiming for more complications, but black is keeping an eye on what's happening on the board and is is not losing track of which fight is important right now. So he's going to extend here. And the direct result is managing the liberties of this group. This group is down to 2 liberties now, which is very important, versus these stones that have 3. 2 liberties, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, and then 3 and 3. Right? And so a result is, because this group is weaker, then these other groups are also a little bit weaker because there's less help. So white is going to follow through because he wants to get something done this way. Black is being somewhat uncooperative because he just takes the territory. And this is, of course, tricky because if white jumps in over here, then black doesn't really have a reason to challenge that because he's just going to play up here instead, right? It's like there's no tempo for white to come here and challenge this territory right now because this is so much bigger. And we can't really call these stones thickness because of the cuts, because they're separated here and black is poking at this area. And of course, because this is challenged. So white now challenges again. He's going to start working on the fight. So now there's nothing on this board matters except for this fight. Right? I mean, this is actually not completely true because, you know, these stones still matter, this wall still matters, but everything now is about this fight. So it's basically, how are these 2 stones going to impact this fight? How is this wall going to impact this fight? How's this cut going to impact this fight? Right? So black also cuts, so another cross cut and an Atari. White turns, and so with the turn we have this possible challenge of the stones here, because if white gets to come out here, then these stones will be challenged and these stones will be challenged. So we're giving it a little bit of strength. And black comes back to Atari this stone. So this helps instantly these 2 groups. White extends one more time and white connects. Now the cut is more activated, although it remains a matter of liberties, and this stone is pretty weak. So of course, black helps the stone. So now you're white, and you gotta choose what to do on this board. So as white, you want to try and make points somewhere. So where do you make points as white? You've got a very gote move here to make 4 or 5 points. Let's say 6 points. You've got points here that you can't really convert. You've got a gote move here or a couple of gote moves to make 8 points. I don't know, maybe. You can probably take 2 or 3 points away here. But fundamentally, you're gonna have to do something in the center. So white has this direction in mind. That's where we are on the board. So white Ataris, meaning there's one move really that makes sense here. And we capture. We Atari again. Black protects. And now we have a question for white, right? So here black is challenging again white's control in the center, and now it's convenient to have this wall and this thickness, because now this fight is going to, you know, black is going to try to squeeze this fight in this direction, and if you want to take a look, this is an interesting variation to look at. Because you could ask, why can't white cut here, right? Because certainly it would be so much easier if white could take these stones. So let's take a look at this. This is one of the big questions on the board. if white goes here, black can begin with an Atari here. So white would have to protect this, because obviously, otherwise this is connected. Right? It's out in the center. Black can challenge the 4 stones and ask if he can cut. And here, white has a couple of options. White could turn here, white could connect. White can turn here, but either way, you end up in a position where this ladder gets unpleasant. And does not work, right? You should be able to see this now. Oops, wrong color. Right. And so nothing can really help here. Like this is just death. Death in Goten, fiery, burning, sad death. I like the words to explain how sad white is right now at this point on this board. So I think, where were we? How much of this didn't exist? None of this stuff existed. And this didn't exist either. So yeah, this is why this cut doesn't work. Chronic depression. Well, you try playing against Shusaku and you tell me how it works out for you. I mean, granted, you'll win by timeout, but still, you know what I'm saying. So white is going to get out and challenge, right? This is I'll definitely go do that right now. So white keeps his eye on the scuts, white keeps his eye on these stones, white especially keeps his eyes on doing something to help these stones that's not Gote. Now, I'm pretty sure, I forgot, well, I need someone to check this. I think this move is just better for white. Because it's just better shape and it's sente and you can go and do this afterwards. But this adds pressure to these stones, right? And it activates this cut. So now, in the response, black is going to play here. Now this move is dual purpose. It prevents white from sliding into the corner effectively, and it defends the push and cut. Right? And it's very simple, right? If you push, you get a tiger's mouth. Very simple. So white is going to challenge this a little bit to see if he can connect. And then black is going to challenge that just as well. It's a pressure on white's shape here to limit the potential eye shape and to protect the cut. It removes the potential for a ko. So white is going to ask, can I has ko? And black will say, no, you can't has ko. Then white is forced to connect because otherwise sadness ensues. And now black gets to come back and this group is out, right? This group now has some space here. You could honey here as black and get eye shape. You are out into the center and you can bully these 2 stones. So it's time to turn around and help these stones and poke at these stones. And we begin with the Atari. So you go here, and black is now going to just turn. He's not gonna create the ladder, he's not gonna come up, because that would hurt these stones, right? he's going to say, can I cut here and take the 3 stones? And then he's also going to say, can I capture these stones? Because if he gets to turn here, the ladder is good, right? So white protects. And this gives black the opportunity to help his now weakest group, which is this one. This move is so patient, and I would have some trouble playing it because I am always in a rush to just attack, and like just if I figure if I attack enough, I don't have to defend. Basically, is more or less how I'm thinking. I'm working on it. But this move is keeping pressure very effectively on this group because this group doesn't have eye shape yet, right? And it's also putting pressure on this group because it's making it difficult for this group to have an effective direction. Because if you push, you might hurt these stones, and you're behind the sector line. So how are you going to be effective in center control right now? So this move does a fair amount of very nice little things. So white gets out from behind this other sector line I forgot to mention right here. And here maybe we take a quick look at what's happening on the board. So if we technically this move was a mistake according to Katago, and white should have actually pushed here again. This was actually more important. But it turns out we did not add variations to look at this. So I don't have time to like refigure this out right now, unfortunately. But let's take a look at what's on the board now. We have this group is floating, this group is floating, this group is floating, and this group is floating. Right? They don't have a base. This group is able to live. This group is unsettled, but it could make a life. Complete gote, but it could. Right, so this is where we are in this fight right now, in short. In more detail, we can count the liberties, right? And see what impacts what. But, black turns here, and so we are asking if we can capture these stones. Right, the fight continues. And we manage the liberties, because of course with this, you're also turning back around, getting more liberties for this to fight this and this. And if black gets these stones, that's very massive. Right? So group 2 is keeping white split right now, and it forces white to defend 2 groups. So white has to get out. Now this is of course damages group 1 because you could seal in group 1, and you get group 2 out from the sector line. So welcome running fights, right? So when I said earlier, I think that Shusaku doesn't like running fights. I think he ended up being forced into this position, and I think he just didn't like it. But not that it worked out badly for him, but because it's a twist-on handicap game. But in one of the games we're looking at now, a lot of the mistakes, quote-unquote mistakes, that we're seeing from Katago are mistakes where, if you look at the variation that Katago would have preferred, the preferred variation would be a running fight, and Shusaku chooses something else. He says, nope, we're not doing the running fight. We're gonna close that off and do this other thing that's easier. At the cost of a few points. So, oh yeah, right. Here you have this group and this group and this group, and they're all playing the surrounding game. Right, and whoever gets sealed in loses thickness on the fight. So, white says, can I seal you in? And this effectively connects out this group, right? Because you can't really do anything effective to disconnect. You can't really wedge. I can show you here. Actually, let me show you briefly what happens with the wedge, just in case you're curious and you don't see how it wraps around. if black decides to do this, then white can Atari here. Black probably wants to connect that. White can poke in once here, right? Which you probably want to save those stones, but you actually can't save those stones because that takes you down this path. And here there's a bunch of variations for honey, non-honey, and so forth, but clearly the honey dies. So this is sort of where you end up being, and here you just don't have the liberties here. The rest of this is left as an exercise to the reader, but it's a problem. Let's just leave it at that. It's a problem. So. I think this is everything I need to remove. 1, 2, 3, 4, blah, blah, blah. Connect. Yep. All right, cool. So now that black is sealed in, black makes life. All right. So here's your tiny lesson: is if you should make sure you have room to make 2 eyes if you're gonna get sealed in. So you can make it the trade where it's okay to get sealed in if you make life. It's not okay to get sealed in if you can't make life. So now you end up in this position, having done this couple of sente moves, where this actually impacts some things over here. So white protects this and gets out. And black now jumps out. So this means that this group is effectively safe. It's very far out. It's lots of directions to run. But this group now has one place to go effectively, which is going to be this stone, or it's going to have to fight here in the middle of black's thickness to live. So you can think of this as being a difficult position for white. It's also worth noting, hello Itarios, how are you? It's worth noting that now black can play here, and that would be a big problem. So white plays this move, and it cannot be nice to play this move, because now black can squeeze it. And this is the squeeze in action. And being able to play this defensive move here for the territory in Sente is very, very nice. How's the game going? It's not like I've even seen it. Yeah, you've only spent like 6 hours over the past 3 weeks on this game, right? Hello, Firescourge. I see you know which way your bread is buttered. So now, of course, the black stones are weakened and have to get out, but they get out and the fight continues. So you connect the stones to a much stronger group and you hurt the white group. And it's possible to cut. This is leaving this as an exercise to the reader or the YouTube. Yeah, the audience, I guess. You can cut, but only if it's okay for you to lose this group. So white reinforces to adjust the liberty count and make it much less of a problem. Angélus du soir, French bread. Hello. So black reinforces, protect against the cut, continue the effort, and white jumps out. Of course, we are forced in today's meta, or today's meme meta, the meme meta, I don't know, to mention that this is Tengen, therefore white wins the game. But somewhat more seriously, if you want to take a look at a couple of things, group 1 here is not alive yet. Right? practice like holding the fan the way like Side did, and then like really get Facebook mad at me. Really like, oh man, look at this dude. Anyway, because this group is not alive yet, you're able as black to poke around on the left side and get some profits. And then, but 2, 3, and 4. These are the numbers of the groups in the SGF. These 3 groups are locked in the running battle right now, and white and black have to figure out what they're gonna do on the board. Hold the fan completely open. Right over here. Right here. You see here? This is a very important board position. Am I Ogi? I have a regular plain old normal fan. But as summer is coming, I think actually I warned you about this, right? As summer is coming, you're gonna see me do this smart. Then place the next move underneath the open fan. I mean, I'll do this once. So, okay, the topic of conversation on the board now is obviously this area of the board, right? Like this area of the board is where the fight is, and so black obviously plays here and fights. And now the exercise for the reader is, which stone did I add? No. It was a stone. Black is going to poke at this, and of course this changes the variation I showed before, because now if black wedges, the liberty count is going to be a bit different because black doesn't have to spend this one move. Lovely magic trick. So because we were looking at this before, right? You know that white has to connect, otherwise this group is going to be dead. The liberty count just will not work. So white is forced to connect. This is quite something. I clapped in real life. Nice. This ends up being a bit of a leaning attack of sorts. It secures some left side profits. Not a ton, but a little bit. It's 4th line, but it's hard for black to do something effective that doesn't hurt these 2 stones. And it does impact the center group, which again, it has a harder time making 2 eyes here. So white is going to continue the running battle. He's going to weaken group 1 here by asking if he can continue to surround it, keep it separated from the side, which would be a boon for a base. And of course, when this group is weakened, this is the way fighting works in Go, when this group is weakened, this group is comparatively stronger. Right? Keep this in mind for your games if you're not good at fighting, like I am not good at fighting. Weakening a group makes the nearby opponent's group stronger. Now, if black plays anywhere but here on the next move, pretty much, or sorry, let's be more honest. If black plays somewhere else on the board, then white can push at g12, and this gets unpleasant because, you know, in this, so this is the simple way of looking at it. This is the simple variation where the group makes an eye and is out and life sucks. But if black decides to try and extend this way, white can wedge, and you're going to have a problem where you're going to be cut off effectively, right? So this is one of the positions here. This is one of the things that is enabled by this stone being placed here. So black protects because that allows him to make this variation not work. Now, white is going to play very far out over here, poking at cuts, because he is trying to surround this group, because that would make this group fantastically okay. And then, Itarios, I did not connect the variations for this, but I don't have the variations in the SGF, but I looked at I looked at the move you were suggesting here for black, which was c12. And if you adjust the komi, so if you say, if you add a komi of 30 to the SGF so that the AI thinks it's an even game, actually, regardless of whether you do that, this is the move that you should play. This is the AI move. So like c12 is a better move in the sense that it's not considered a mistake. However, this makes the game more complicated and it creates more opportunities for fights. Because what you end up with is a position where white can harass this a little bit, and so you end up with this group and this group being two split groups. And so black can attack this. Sorry, white can attack this group. Black can attack this group. It's just going to be harder. So this is one of those places where I think black Shusaku chooses something simpler. So white says, oh, I get to settle, thank you. And then black says, yes, you get to settle, but I get profit. This is my trade. Right? And then white plays down to connect his thoughts, to connect his, to finish his ice space. Now, this of course can still be invaded and poked, but white is living very small. So this entire Joseki, from this double approach Joseki, got very much ruined by the fact that it was a 3-stone handicap, honestly. It's kind of reminiscent of the very slow and methodical way in which you would see Wang Longsha actually take advantage of these double approach Joseki and work against them. And I mean, it took a very long time, and it came out, I think, of white doing this crosscut over here, which was nuts. But, white got what he wanted. White got the complications. Gumitarka, hello. Paige, thank you for the follow. Itarios, you're welcome. So, now this is fundamentally, this is settled now. So now we're going to go back to the next fight. And black is going to ask some questions about this area of the board. White is going to create more complications here. He's going to say, white says, hey, can I still take these stones? Is that still a thing I can do? Now, technically, all right, this is another one of those places where I don't have the variations for this, but feel free to look at it with Katago, exercise to the reader. Put comments in YouTube or here in chat now if you're watching this live, and tell me if you would like to, at least in the SGF, have the crazy Katago variations added to the SGF, because it turns out this move here that black chooses, you will not believe this. Well, actually, Paige will, because Paige's phrase is strong. But there's two important things to note about this move. One is, according to the AI, this move is a 5-point mistake. That's the first thing. And the second thing is, this is actually the simplest move to maintain the advantage. Right? Black is up 30 points still, so black hasn't lost the lead from being a 3-stone handicap. And yes, the crosscut is the simplest move to maintain the advantage. If you don't crosscut, the game gets crazier. It fixes black's weaknesses in the cuts. Yes. I should have said that. You're right. Sorry. Thank you. Thank you for precising. Is that commenting? I don't know. French took over my... But yeah, thank you. Yes, I'll just leave it there. You know why you know what I'm thanking you for. And so black here very gently is offering this trade. Now again, technically, here, this is a mistake. The AI wants black to just play over here, or I just play here and just close that off completely. Crystal's cross-cut settles quickly. I mean, Itarios, I would agree with you except for the fact that all of this is one crosscut. All right, so yeah, not every crosscut settles quickly, because this is move 109, and yeah, it's been like 50-60 moves of crosscut, I think. All right, so black plays here, so now this is connected, right? Okay, push this back. And then white gets to extend slightly towards the center here. Gonna sleep on the couch, watching Alice in Wonderland. Nice. Ah, no worry, Bats. I appreciate it. Thank you. Probably shouldn't say Bats in front of all these people who play Go. They're gonna think that I'm talking to actual Bats Go, and I'm not. But anyway, crosscut evolves into pinwheel. If you're not on the second line, yes. On the second line, it turns out it doesn't. Now, okay, so this looks like it's giving white a very nice shape, but it's a process of trading and settling out of the fight, right? Which is part of what it's the kind of the extension of what Paige was saying. Now, black group is now completely safe, and white's group, while it has shape, still needs a bit of work to actually get eyes. So black is going to challenge this a little bit, because this is still an opportunity to make a nicer shape, and it is white's. It's white's responsibility to figure out what to do here. I think we said it would be nice to play in an old stream. What? Oh, Gubitarka and Itarios. Okay, got it. So here, white just makes shape. And black continues because he gets a chance to get very strong, and this is a nice threat against these stones. So white's response here for safety is to threaten to cut and take these 3 stones. Because it's not so bad if this gets cut off from this, as long as this is connected to that, which is now alive, right? Very simple. Black now gets to come back around with a new direction. He's extending now from up here, fixing out the possible cut from here. And he's beginning to make it hard for these stones to get to these. So we're still challenging white's ability to do something on this board. And white doesn't have a ton of points yet, you know? Now, if white ignores this move, black gets to play here. And this is nice territory. It's a very nice little area here. So, can't really do that. So, white connects. And black says, well, look, I am content with a couple of points here and staying connected and life being good. And you don't have eye space here just yet. But you'll notice, of course, there's a trade. You know, black sacrifices those 3 stones for this shape here. So what happened here is black just traded out of the fight completely. And these 4 stones are not as weak as they seem, because of course black can play here and connects, right? But they are now surrounded by more white strength. And because these stones are dead, this is comparatively a fair bit stronger. So now this is now settled, right? Like this entire group is now very settled, and white doesn't have a weak group on the board anymore. And that is very nice. It's very nice for white. Time for a quick territory evaluation since black has sent it. Yes, it's a great time to do it. If only that were in the SGF. But let's take a quick look. Over here, we're gonna have 2, 4, 6, 8, 11, 15. I'm gonna leave it at 15 because all of this can go away. Here we're gonna have 2, 4, 6-ish. I'm gonna give black 5 points here. So we'll make it 20 points total. This I had marked as 18 points earlier. I'm still gonna mark it as 18 points. So we're at 33 points. Then we have some points here. We're gonna say 2, 4, 6. So we're gonna say black has about 40 points on the board. And white has, this is what, 3, 6, 9, 12, let's say 14, right? And then this was 11, so this is 25. And now with this capture here, we have like, let's say 3 points, 5, 7, 9, 11, 12. So 27. So like black is up 3 points or so. If you don't count the like strength, is like my rough count. But again, what this count doesn't take into account is the positional advantage that black still has in this area. Like it's right, black still has this stone, this stone, this stone, and this stone, which loom over this area. Also, I didn't count these points, to be fair. This is like another 5 points that black has. So black is up 8, 9, 10 points, plus the positional advantage here. So that's my analysis here, and I didn't start the AI, so I can't just cheat and go, the AI says these many points. And black has Sente, yes. It's also worth noting there are some Yosei opportunities around S5 and S7 for black. So there's going to be some possible reductions here of white's points. So what I'm counting is a little bit generous. Now black here is going to finish separating these 3 stones. The ko here is worth not a lot. I need to practice counting these things so I can start doing it on stream live. Because right now, like, looking at this ko, I'm like, I don't know, 3 points. But I think it's a little more than that. Now, at this point, white has to play, and white jumps. Here the AI agrees this is the right area to play. It doesn't really care if you play here, 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 here. Like it knows white needs to play here. Right? You stabilize this 3-space extension to a 3rd dimension, and it makes the area slightly more stable. And it's a slightly easier exit path for this group, right? It's slightly easier to connect back out. Not that it's a problem necessarily, because again, it's connected and fine, but there's that. So black gets to jump out this way. And actually now in the SGF I have points. And in the SGF now we mark black at 50 and white at 35 approximately. So black is up 15 points conservatively. And there's like 5 big Yosei areas to hit that will impact the score. And they are going to be this move, this move, this move, this move, and this move. Now this 1-space jump here, it just keeps the outside contested, right? Keeps making it harder for white to actually make points here, and while making good shape, right? Double horse face. Who doesn't like a double horse face? Except, you know, people in movies who wake up with one next to them in their bed. So we settle. Settle. And sorry, so before we go a tiny bit further, so black has like 46 points on the board ish, plus 3 points from captures. White has about 42 points plus 43 points plus capture, so the game is close. Probably too early, but is it better for black to Kasumi at S5, S7 or descend at S6? I do not know the answer, but I would expect the descent to be better. Wait, the horse head, or that they sneak and put the horse without waking him? Oh, probably that they put the horse there without waking him, I think, is the creepier part. So what we have here, we have an undecided F9 area for points, right? And it is up to white to make up the difference in points in this area of the board, pretty much. So black continues to extend. White challenges. Gonna make a couple of points here. And we're both continuing to close out the territory here. Right, this is absolutely where we are. Black is playing greedy and manifesting things. You have to take into account here for the reading, this cut, the Atari, this cut, the Atari. This connection here that could split out these stones. But the white needs to extend and make more points. And you know, it looks like a lot of territory, right? But this is very open. So it's a thing to take into account. And now that we're gonna challenge this area, instead of accepting the cut, we can just start a ko. And this is the last big point, right? It's got, and it's a ko for the, basically for how big the right side is. It decides how big the right side is gonna be, because if white gets to cut and take this, it's gonna make this much smaller. Otherwise, the bottom will be much smaller. White gets to ask if it's okay to take the two stones. Black is not actually okay with that. We're gonna ask if we can take this move, which would wreak havoc in white's shape. And we get to take this ko. We get to descend here. We ask for maybe another ko, because why not? Kos are fun in the end game, right? So in this particular position, it looks like S5 was a better starting point, but maybe it's because ko threats. Because I think it means you get S7 as a ko threat too, I believe. White connects and threatens to disconnect a bunch of stones and hurt a lot of things. Black gets to close this area off, which is pretty huge. White, of course, sneaks in, but black takes the ko, so he doesn't finish the end game here. Which, to be fair, actually no, never mind. There's no to be fair. Yep. White continues to play threats that would lead to stones dying and black's territory being severely damaged. It's nice. Black is this is nice ko threats, because you don't lose any points for playing these ko threats. But what's the background music? If you do bang music, you should be able to see it. Let me know if it's too loud. Actually, maybe I can do that for you. There it is. White has yet more very nice threats that cost him nothing. Although this one actually did cost that, technically. But black gets to both over here. Now when white protects this area of the board, it is time for black to finally come back and play this move. And this time, when white captures the ko, black comes back to making something as of our local threats. So there's certainly some questions to be asked here about the value of local threats first, but this does make this a little bigger, but it reduces this a tiny bit. Now, if we look at the board position, now that F9 got captured, just where on earth? Now that this group is solidly dead and captured, right? Black is up, I think, 10-ish points on this board. White gets to ask another question, which certainly deserves a response. And when black finally comes back to close his territory here, white closes his own as well. So we can take a ko. Now when white pokes down here, instead of trying to protect, we're gonna encroach on the territory. Slightly bigger move because it impacts both territories. And oops, that's not the right color. Now here, technically, supposedly, H2 would be a slightly bigger move. Oh, the letters. Did the board move or did the letters move? Probably not the letters because they're digital. Alright, that's unfortunate. But like H2 would be a slightly better move. I mean, this is driving me nuts. Sorry. Okay. Oh no! What have I done? That was the cost of making the letters match the lines a little bit. Unfortunately, it's easier to do that than to move the board now. So this supposedly is a 3-point mistake, but you know, black is up 15 points ish. So, oh sorry, black is up 10 points. So we don't have to care. We get one more ko because we love kos, and these are just tiny endgame kos, but they're points. And black connects out here with this threat. And what this does, it prevents moves like J9, which is like over here, from being ko threats, to create a capturing race between E9 and H9, right? So this is just a, you know, simplifying things a little bit, keeping things a little bit more clear, because he's up 10 points, which is a lot for a pro, but still, you know, there's still easily a big swing if you're forced down a ko fight that you don't like. We get, of course, this ko threats. We have to respond. Take this. Now, at this point, white has caught up with some endgame points, but black is still up 5 points approximately, which is fairly comfortable for this level of play. We're gonna reduce, or at least ask some threats. According to Katago, at this point, black has about a 10-point lead. So it's like, it's hard to tell, but it's about 5 points is probably probably reasonable enough. White is going to play all the co-threats, because all the co-threats are nice. And black here just connects. So this is the last move we have in the game record. The game record tells us that black wins by 4 points. So this massive fight, whites really did make up 25 points from the 3-stone handicap. So it seems like a lot, and it seemed crazy, but giving this to white turned out to be very nice. And these trades here turned out to be good enough, and white was able to convert this area very well. So, very exciting game. Remember this next time you want a crosscut. People in live chat gave me a second to close out to give the YouTube closeouts, and then I'll go back to the live chat works. So thank you all for watching this this video of. I guess I usually do put away the board first. I have got to make adjustments to the way I do this. I'm very unprofessional right now. But yeah, thank you everyone for watching the video. I appreciate it. If you have comments, questions, put them down in the comments. Ye old YouTube things about like and subscribe. If you want to join the channel, if you want to join the project, join my Discord. The Discord is in the homepage for the Shusaku Study Project. We need more good people because everyone in chat who's in the project can tell you how many hours it takes. We need more help because we want to make it through, and it takes a lot of good people. And I will see you all in the next for the next